Okay, Chelsea, you ready to go? Thank you. Hey, good evening, everybody. It looks like we have a small crew in attendance this evening, but my name is Gary Vogren. Welcome. I'm with KVD. I'm a landscape architect land planner here in Franklin to discuss the West Franklin Park Neighborhood Development Plan Amendment. I'll just start off by saying this is kind of the introduction to the project, what we're trying to accomplish. So I'll go through the project, site context, location, what's currently approved, the proposed changes, the existing architectural elevations that are not being changed, exterior, the process, and any Q&A. Next up after this meeting is a planning commission meeting, October 23rd, 2025. So I'll go through this quickly. Site context map. So West Franklin Park sits along McEwen Drive, north side of McEwen Drive, east of I-65. Currently houses two office building towers, Franklin 1 and Franklin Park 2. A lot of outdoor amenity space, activation of the campus. This proposed plan that I'll show here will kind of sit in these blue zones on the map. On this aerial photograph, you can see the existing two office towers, the multifamily in the back, Nissan in the rear. But we're focused on this development plan for the entire campus, but proposing elements in these blue quadrants as part of the development plan application. This is the approved development plan that was done back in 21, approved. We are not asking for changes to the development plan in terms of entitlements, square footage of buildings, be it non-residential or residential, not changing any densities or things of that nature. We're simply asking for one modification of standards to reduce parking to match the current zoning ordinance. At the time this project went through the process, there was the current zoning ordinance, which had a much higher rate of parking for office and multifamily. Retail remains the same. So in terms of this layout that was approved in 21 and we had revested in 2024, yellow is the residential blocks A, B, and C being proposed and approved. Block D was a proposed office building. Block C was a mixed-use residential building with some retail ground floor. We had some ancillary retail, also ground floor and some of this residential, but the entitlements are not changing the plan in terms of the way it looks, it feels, in terms of its exterior look or facade treatment, just asking for one MOS to reduce parking based on the current zoning ordinance. So how are we doing that? I'll kind of focus on the highlighted area here, but basically, as I mentioned, this proposed modification of standards request is in the base parking rates to align with the parking rates matching the approved January 1, 2025 Franklin zoning ordinance. The reduction of parking rates is supported with no changes to the design included within the development plan. So this chart kind of summarizes what the uses are. So we have multifamily, as I mentioned, we have office, we have retail. Back when this plan was approved, the zoning ordinance, you can see the multifamily parking ratios were studios 1.5, one bedroom 1.5, two bedroom 2.5, three bedroom 3. That has since been lowered in the current zoning ordinance from 1.5 to 1.25 for a studio, 1.5, 1.25 for one bedroom, 2.5 to 2.25 for two bedroom, 3 to 2.25 for three bedroom. Office was lowered from 4 per thousand to 3 per thousand. Retail has remained unchanged. So again, we're just asking for a reduction of parking to meet the current zoning ordinance and these uses for multifamily office particular. So with that net change, we're basically reducing 384 parking spaces based on the new current zoning ordinance, based on what we got approved in the past. So how are we getting that done? We're losing those 384 spaces, basically just taking out parking in these structured parking elements as part of the building. So blocks A, B, C, D all have parking structures or podium of some sort of another, but the anticipation is that we will just reduce subterranean parking in block A, reduce subterranean parking in block B, reduce parking in this parking deck for the office building in D, and remove some spaces in the structured parking or podium parking on block C. Again, not changing the layout of the design, not changing the facade design, just subterranean parking or reduction of parking in trays in the structured parking. just to create the current entitlements as we have approved in the past. Moving on, this architectural kind of wireframe model shows the proposed development and approved current development plan that was approved in 21. This shows the two existing towers here. McEwen is along this front. I-65 is here. We propose this second office tower and then buildings A, B, and C. The only change to this, which are not reflective of the architecture, is just we're just reducing parking within these parking structures for A, B, and C that are subterranean, below grade, to allow us to free up some spaces when this thing is constructed. Same for office building C, parking would be reduced below the building so you don't notice the change. The building facades remain the same. Same thing goes for the office. We would just take spaces out of the parking deck to reduce that number. So in terms of architectural facades, layout design, nothing is changing. This is kind of a different view of the same site. McEwen is along this edge here, two existing office towers. Then the proposed development here, just showing the different angle of the way this view site sits. Again, just reducing parking in the structured parking blocks within A, B, C, and this office tower. It's kind of a more closer view of the design intent for this project as it was approved back in 21 and invested in 24. Again, the facades, elements, amenities, open space, drive lanes, parking, all remain the same. Entitlements remain the same. Again, just reducing parking internally to the building so it doesn't change the public view or the view shed coming into the project to adjacent residents. In terms of process, I kind of wrap this up in terms of what we're trying to do for this one simple modification of standards to parking, keeping the remaining entitlements in place. We obviously have to hold this neighborhood meeting for people within 500 feet. But we also have to go before Planning Commission in October, go to the joint workshop, which is Planning Commission and Mayor and Board of Aldermen on September 25 of 2025, and then eventually to the Mayor and Board of Aldermen at the first reading of 25 of this year, November. We've currently submitted a pre-application for this project. Staff has reviewed it. We had initial feedback. Chelsea on the call was part of that meeting, as well as planning staff, fire, engineering, codes, others going through the comments. We'll be addressing those comments and submitting this coming Monday for a submittal. So this goes through the process and eventually first landing on the first Franklin Planning Commission on October 23. If you need more information about the project, you can go to this website down here, www.franklinparkcs.com. More detailed information, but that is the summary for this kind of request to the revision for this development plan of West Franklin Park, and I'd be glad to answer any questions anybody has. I'll open the floor. I appreciate everybody's time this evening.
Not necessarily a parking question, but from the map, I can't tell, is the Nissan Trail, that walking paved trail, outside the boundary, or is it inclusive of the development? I don't know whose right of way it is.
Yeah, you can see, if you can see this, my red cursor here, this is that trail going through here along the interstate. So it runs just adjacent to property. And then we have a connection point that taps into that element that goes north up to Nissan. So that's that multi-purpose trail right through here. That would remain. We would tap into it right here, and then it continues further on to Nissan. And then there's a series of walkways and trails included within the amenities that tie back all to the central amenities, the amphitheater, the walking space, the trails, all through the development. Just trying to activate this office campus, make it live, work, and play. Great question. Does that answer it for you?
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you, Ned. Want to check the chat, make sure there's nothing in there. Any other questions? Last call before we close out the evening. All right, Chelsea, I think we're good to go. I appreciate your time, everybody. Everybody have a great evening, but please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Again, my name is Gary Vogren with KVD. Phone number 615-708-0567. Email gary@kaiservogren.com. If you have any questions, be happy to reach out to me and I'll answer any questions that you have. So thank you all and have a good night. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, everybody.